Hey guys, we're so excited today about putting down some black locust decking for our boardwalk going from some stone stairs up to the central steps for our schoolhouse. Um, I wanted to talk to you about locust, black locust. If you're not familiar with black locust in general, um, I'd say most people probably haven't heard of it unless they're lucky enough to live in rural Appalachia. If you did live on a farm, you probably know it as the wood that was used for fence posts or firewood. It's really kind of famous for firewood. It's super dense, burns really hot, burns a long time. It's like the best firewood ever. It's also an amazing wood for rot resistance for fence posts going into the ground. But we're fortunate enough through a grant with the local Rotary clubs and some support from Roby Decking to get Locust Deck to go on this boardwalk. So I want to talk about black locust in general and show you the deck too. So this is our black locust. If you could show them up close. It's super beautiful. It is this kind of golden color and extremely hard. Very dense wood. You can probably hear it. Kind of people make timber frame hammers out of it. It's super durable. It is a replacement for ipe, the famous Amazonian hardwood that kind of is notorious for bad environmental impact. So this is a native North American, especially Appalachian species that can be used outside in decking and has extreme rot resistance. It'll last much longer than your typical today's version of pressure treated decking. And it has similar rot resistance to some of the Amazonian hardwoods. So this is a much more environmentally friendly version if you live in Appalachian. So if you don't know about it as decking, you should know about it. It's a little bit hard to come by, but there's commercial companies that are starting to produce it. Mainly it's been hard to come by because how dense it is. It's a little hard to process, but it's also kind of a gnarly wood. The other real benefit to it environmentally is that this is a very fast growing wood. It pops up in some of the worst soils that we have in Appalachian Mountains. It's one of the first successional plants to come up, and so it'll pop up in very eroded places and sprout up very quickly. So you'll often find it on the edges of forests, or you'll find it on the edges of fields. But it's starting to become available commercially. They've invested in processing this kind of wood. It's super dense. It's very hard on saws and screws in terms of drilling, but it's worth it. The environmental impact is really worth it. The other thing I want to talk to you about is just this as a unit. You can show them the deck over here. We've put it down on top of some 6x6s, but this is going to be unfinished. It looks really gorgeous and golden right now, but it's going to kind of weather gray. We don't have to put any finish on this. You can put a finish on it and it'll stay kind of yellowish, but otherwise we're going to let it gray out and it'll come kind of a silvery gray with UV damage. The sun will kind of bleach it silver, but it's a little hard to come by, but it's somewhat available now. One of the reasons it's hard to come by is because it has some diseases that are pretty significant. It's not going to completely kill the species, but it is causing a lot of damage. It's susceptible to a fungus that comes up from the roots and eventually will kill the tree. It's also got leaf miners, which come out, I guess, probably late July or August, and you'll see a lot of locust bloom or a lot of locust leaves start to brown and fall off. Both of those can kill the tree eventually, but that's not a horrible thing in some circumstances. We see locust trees a lot as wildlife habitat here, where once they've died, you'll have beetles and you'll have carpenter ants start to eat away at the wood, and what that means is you get woodpeckers coming in, and that's their food source. So you'll see a lot of woodpecker holes and use of that tree, and eventually they'll bore it out and they'll turn it into a home. So you'll have woodpeckers living in it, but then following woodpeckers you'll have other species like owls or chickadees or kestrels in some circumstances come in and live in those cavities. So these locust trees, as very rot resistance, will stand dead for a long period of time and create home and habitat for all different kinds of critters. So even though they're dying and they can be damaged pretty bad, it's not necessarily a bad thing environmentally. It can provide a lot of habitat. They're also kind of good snags. I'm looking at one over here right now. You'll see there's one on the corner of our property. We'll probably have to take that one out eventually, but they're good snags for raptors for looking at hunting for mice and whatnot. So they'll be able to sit up at the top of this tree and watch. So not a terrible thing, but obviously we're using it for decking. We're also using it for our boardwalk. I don't know if you want to walk over and show them. Not our boardwalk, our bridge and our signage, so all of our little posts. So we're trying to feature it as a native Appalachian species that is extremely durable, environmentally friendly. So I'd encourage everybody to go out and research it if you've got a project. Hopefully you can get out and see our deck too, because it's going to be really special whenever it comes to life.